It took me totally by surprise that given the highly structured narrative demands of that kind of storytelling, it could be so seamlessly character-driven. It is a beast of a book that at once brings so many of society's woes into focus while maintaining a deep and intimate portrait of its multiple characters. I think the whole cast felt this way, and all got extremely invested in Clint's telling of it. A great experience from top to bottom. That was said by Sean Penn on Mystic River. And while I'm not a huge fan of Sean Penn, I consider him my arch nemesis, I must say that I wholeheartedly agree with him on that. Hello everyone, Britton here, also known as Smoky Dude, and today, if you didn't gather by the quote I just read, I am covering Mystic River by Dennis Lehane. Now, as you all know, I am a big fan of Dennis Lehane. In my opinion, he is probably one of the best crime fiction writers of his generation. And in my opinion, he is the best crime fiction writer working today. Actually, his new book, Small Mercies, just came out, and in my last video, I totally forgot to mention that. In books this year that I want to read, definitely that one. So yeah, I'm covering Mystic River today, which is considered by many to be Lehane's masterpiece. And I must say that I agree with this sentiment. This was an excellent, excellent book that I enjoyed all the way through. Or well, I should say it's a satisfying reading experience, though it is often harrowing and it is very sad. Now, Mystic River is not a mere crime novel. It's partly a character study, it's partly an exploration into the effects of trauma and the cyclical nature of violence, and also how trauma can ruin your life. And ultimately, it's a tragedy, this book is. Very much a tragedy, not quite in the Shakespearean one, but there's almost a Greek level to this tragedy. That sounds really stupid, but I hope you get what I mean. This is a really sad book, and it's a very poignant exploration of how trauma can rot you from the inside, particularly with one of the characters in this, which I won't get into. Honestly, what made this book so powerful for me is that it's not really just a crime novel. It's also a character study of these three guys, Sean, Jimmy, and Dave. When they were kids, to give an idea a little bit on what the kind of hook of this story is, when they were kids, they were approached by these two guys who they thought were cops, but it turned out that they weren't cops. They were actually really bad guys. Sean and Jimmy did not get in with the guys, but Dave did, and while he did manage to escape, the experience obviously left some really harsh emotional scars on him that basically ruined his life in a lot of ways. And there were some passages in this, particularly in the first part, which is called The Boys Who Got Away from the Wolves, that really got to me. They just punch you right in the chest. And I would say Lehane has a very clear and concise style. There's not a lot of lush to it, but it flows nicely, and there's also just a lot of emotion that's packed into this book. I was more reminded of a Stephen King novel than I was of, a crime novel of someone like, Raymond Chandler, Dashiell Hammett, Jim Thompson, those guys. This felt more like a Stephen King novel at times, just in terms of the character development, character voice, and the way that really Lehane gets you to care for these people before he puts them through the ringer, of course. Lehane, like I mentioned earlier, he writes with such feeling that it's really hard to not get emotionally invested in what's going on. And sometimes the characters in this, they make choices, and they make really hard choices. And sometimes those choices are bad, and it often costs them somehow. And it's, again, it's a very sad story. I was particularly affected by the story of Dave, who had gone with the two men in the police car. And really what's so tragic is that this guy his life is shattered, basically. He does have a wife, he does have a kid, he loves them very much, but ultimately, he's so messed up from what he saw, and he was never really able to cope with that trauma. It basically just ruined his life, and his story is probably the most heartbreaking in this. I don't want to spoil what happens, but if you gather from what I said about it being heartbreaking, it doesn't end very well. But the other two characters are very well developed as well. Sean is a guy who is he's the homicide detective. He is the detective of the story, and he is very much jaded by the system as well as the way that people just kill each other for stupid reasons, and it's caused his marriage to just completely fall apart. And he often calls his wife, but she doesn't talk to him. Yeah, basically, he's an emotional wreck as well. And Jimmy, who's kind of the victim of this story, but also a perpetrator. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but I'd say Jimmy is probably the book's most poignant exploration into the cyclical nature of violence and how violence often loops back and affects people who have already committed it. I mean, I don't want to spoil, but Jimmy almost feels like what happens to him is a sort of punishment for what he did in the past, because he used to be a criminal back in the day, until he had his daughter, and then, he's not a criminal anymore. But as this case ends up going along, he ends up being tempted to go back to his criminal ways, and really, it goes very badly from there. I mean, it's really quite something. Alongside the character drama and the ruminations on trauma and violence, there's also a really deeply compelling mystery in this. Like, someone gets murdered. Just letting you know, I won't say who it is, but someone gets murdered, and they're forced to solve the mystery. And the mystery does take a lot of turns. There are a lot of loopholes that are not loopholes. There are a lot of wrenches that are thrown into this mystery, as secrets end up getting revealed, and we end up seeing really the darker side of some of these characters, particularly Jimmy. But yeah, the mystery is really well done. Really keeps you guessing on what's going to happen next, and particularly when it comes to Dave, who becomes sort of the red herring of the story. But again, don't want to get too spoilery into this. But for me, what really sold me on Mystic River, what makes it one of my favorite reads that I've read this year, is probably the ending. It's really the ending that sells it for me. I mean, this book ends in such a way that is so haunting and heartbreaking and poignant that I can't even put it to words. I mean, it's one of those, you have to read it for yourself, but it'll punch you right in the guts. It's not really one that holds back. It doesn't get like super gruesome or anything, that if you're worried about that. But excuse me, it does get really sad, and not all the characters get a clear ending or a clean ending. Some of these characters have some characters who go down a really dark path. I won't say who, but you'll see what I'm talking about when you start reading the book. But really, the ending almost feels like the most poignant words, and even by the time I got to the final words of the book, that it really just hit me. My buddy Jason said it's an art to end something, and I have to agree. I think Mystic River might be Lehane's best ending. Well, either that or Darkness Take My Hand, which is the second novel of his Kinsey and Gennaro series, which I do plan on covering at some point, probably in October, because it's kind of a horror novel as well as a crime novel. But yeah, Mystic River is a really, really good book. I really enjoyed it, and I bet you're wondering, Britton, have you seen the movie that Clint Eastwood made? And as a matter of fact, I did, and very close to the book. Not really. I mean, they do change some stuff. They do kind of clear it out a little. They do clean up some stuff that They do clean up some of the bits, because this book is very meditative at times, and the movie kind of makes it more concise. Now, I do think Clint Eastwood is a very talented director. Unforgiven is probably my favorite movie that he's made, anyway. Also a really great performance from him as well. But Mystic River was a really damn good movie. Great performances all around. Again, despite the fact I don't like Sean Penn, He was very good in the movie as Jimmy. Kevin Bacon, where did that come from? I knew him as, you know, in some. He was kind of the guy from Footloose and Tremors, but he was very good in this as well. But Tim Robbins, man, Tim Robbins as Dave, he killed it, man. I can't really say much else. Like in the book, I say that Dave is. I don't want to say he's my favorite character, but he's easily the most compelling, but also the most tragic. Because I mean, my God, he goes to the ringer in this. What did I think of the movie? Very good film. It has a lot of recognizable faces. It has Laura Linney, again, Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon, Lawrence Fishburne's in it, Tim Robbins from Shawshank Redemption, the girl in Shameless, who plays the oldest sister, is in it, briefly. The kid who plays Bruce Willis's son in Unbreakable is in it. So yeah, a lot of recognizable faces. But again, it's very close to the book. Even there's certain like scenes that are right out of the book that just get thrown into the movie. I mean, my buddy Kyle said that Lehane's movies are really made for the screen, and I would agree. Like, and Mystic River really proves that. I mean, though I'm more partial to The Drop personally. I think The Drop is a fantastic movie, underrated movie, but also good book too. But yeah, Mystic River. This was a really great novel. I actually read it at the beginning of the year. There's not really much else I can say about Mystic River, rather than it is one of my favorite books of this year that I've read anyway. This didn't come out this year, but yeah, I can see why a lot of people consider it Dennis Lehane's masterpiece, and I might dare say it is his best book, aside from Darkness Take My Hand, in my opinion anyway. Yeah, Mystic River is an excellent book, and I think you guys should go check it out, like, as soon as possible. Like, check it out. It might look thick, but it's a very compelling read. But I digress. But yeah, that's basically all I gotta say for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to go check out my Twitter, go check out my Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the ones you just heard right now. I also have a Discord, but I'm kind of messing with it right now and trying to figure out how the stupid link works, because people keep saying that the link doesn't work. Now, if you do want to join my Discord and don't want to click on the link, just send me a message. I'll probably I'll invite you to my Discord if you don't want to, you know, if you don't get through the link. But I digress. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. This has been my review of Dennis Lehane's Mystic River. Take care, everyone.